going on. So we'll give it a second here. I'll edit this part out. If you're just joining us live or you're catching the recorded version, I'll edit this out here at some point. But hang tight for 1 second. I'm going to let the YouTube settle down. All right, here we go. All right, Jim Collison, we're back. Heartland Developers Conference 2017. We're excited. Dustin Tower is with us here. Dustin, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
I say welcome back because if you just Google you and me, there's a whole bunch of videos.
I've never left.
This might be the 7th. Yeah. It's like, do you ever go home? But for folks who don't know you, why don't you guys give us a little bit of your background?
Dustin Tower. I'm based in St. Paul, Minnesota. Work for a company called Easel Solutions, and we're kind of a part training and part development shop. So I teach some web development classes, some e-learning classes, and we have other instructors that teach the kind of the Creative Cloud, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. And when we're not in the classroom teaching or at a conference or I'm in my office working on projects.
That's awesome. And I think that maybe the 6th or 7th time I've interviewed you.
Yeah, between this and Infotech.
I know.
Yeah.
It's Omaha. It's great. I actually look forward to having you back.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Let's talk. You're here to talk a little bit about JavaScript. And, of course, we always say JavaScript runs the web. It does.
It's a large portion of the success of the web.
What's new? I mean, is there anything? Certainly, all these languages, when we think about what we're doing, they're always evolving. They're always changing. What's new in JavaScript? I mean, where's it at today, and what's new?
Yeah, well, a lot of the focus today is on the necessity of JavaScript to create more rich web experiences. Back in the early days of the web, it was render everything on the server and spit it out for the user, and it was a little bit slower process because you constantly had to refresh the page to give them new content. The page had to refresh to go to the database, get data, and JavaScript has changed that, and it's made for really lightweight and robust applications that work across multiple devices. The drawback of JavaScript is if you don't have that enabled in the browser, your page doesn't work. So we still have to build web applications that can respond to more hostile JavaScript environments like screen readers that might not support it, or assistive devices, or just again the issue where JavaScript breaks on the page and it doesn't work. So it's crucial to a lot of delivery of content, but we still have to look at the web in a way of what if we don't have JavaScript? What can we still give the user that makes the experience work?
Yeah, and you're kind of in that training space, and I ask you this question each time, but it's a good one. If I'm new into the space and I'm thinking about, I need to start writing this. I might be a college grad. I might be in college. I might want to start writing this. Where's the right place to start today? If you were going to get into this and begin to learn kind of the nuances of JavaScript, where do you start?
Well, it really starts with the fundamentals, and what's tricky is you look at JavaScript tutorials nowadays, and a lot of them do focus on frameworks like React that Facebook created or Angular that Google created. You've just got a lot of open source tools or frameworks that have been developed, but you still want to focus on the fundamentals because these frameworks are all based on JavaScript. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those are the languages of the web. If you understand those, it's going to allow you to jump into a position where, this company uses React or this company uses Angular. You don't have to worry about learning every new kind of new shiny object that appears along the way. If you understand JavaScript, you're going to be able to go anywhere with web development.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a curve at you. We've been talking virtual assistants all morning with the guests that have been in here. I tried to build my own Amazon skill, and I think it required some JavaScript.
It very well could have, yeah.
So in the world of where we're moving to more, we're talking to our computers or they're understanding us more. Is there a place for JavaScript in that world?
Absolutely, and that's kind of like the thing we always say, like, don't bet against JavaScript, and it's more and more the case because when we look at web application development, like, we're very used to mobile apps now. We're used to the idea of that I've got an app on my phone, I hit the little icon, boom, it pulls up, it does what I need it to do. Even if I don't have internet, like, you can still pull up Facebook and scroll through maybe like what you just looked at. Same thing with Instagram or any of these apps that kind of cache some stuff offline. The trouble is, if you want to build those apps, you got to go learn another language. You got to go learn Swift for app or for iOS development. You got to learn Java for Android development. The thing with JavaScript, though, is that we can now build what are called progressive web applications. A web application where the first time you visit it, it caches everything on your device offline so that it's available there. Now, granted, you won't have access to like live data if you don't have an internet connection, but you can still hit that app on your device. It behaves, it's really a web page, almost like a bookmark, but it behaves like an app. So we're able to build device-centric, applications with JavaScript that are really nothing more than a web app. And that's where a lot of other platforms or even other hardware areas are leveraging JavaScript, because it's a really lightweight, pretty robust application code base, and it's versatile. It can run anywhere.
And can you give me an example of an application I might know that is doing something like that?
So off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
However,
it'll come in a second,
but it's indistinguishable. So, like, for example, Twitter's mobile platform, mobile.twitter.com. That's a big progressive web application. It's all JavaScript. If you're on an Android phone and you hit save to your home screen, it looks exactly like an app on your phone. So that's sitting right next to your Twitter app. Whichever one you hit, you won't know the difference that one's in that mobile app and one's just a mobile website that's behaving like an app. And the delivery model then, if they need to update something, they want to change the UI, they want to change some code base. Well, for the one that's an app, you got to go back to the Google Play Store, download it, update it that way. To the one that's a mobile site, next time you pull it up, it's just like a regular website. It's going to be new. That same thing can work for iOS. iOS doesn't completely support 100% some of the technology that's needed, or you have to use something called App Cache to work with it. But that's kind of the kicker, is that it's indistinguishable now what would be JavaScript versus a native application.
Yeah, anything coming in iOS 11 that would change that? Or
well, Safari now, the main thing is the browser, because that's still the key. Is like we need a browser, for a lot of these progressive web applications, because that's where they live. And up until iOS or the latest version of Safari, they haven't supported some of the technology, and some people will say because maybe it's not ready yet, or that kind of thing. Other people might say it might be because this might eat into a little bit of the iOS or the Apple Store, because people can create apps that can be distributed outside of that store this way. And that's where Safari, the next version of Safari coming in iOS 11, will actually support Service Worker and a number of the other modern JavaScript APIs that we need to be able to build universally distributable progressive web applications.
Yeah, we talked about voice. What about in the world of the reality worlds, the VR, AR, MR? When we think about those, does JavaScript have a place in those environments?
Yeah, it absolutely does. The drawback the drawback of JavaScript in the browser is that if you want to do 3D immersive environments, or you want to do something that just is really heavy on the rendering side, you can rely on WebGL or the Canvas element to kind of help you out for doing that. But it still is in the browser, so you're losing a little bit of processor power that way, and it's not like a native app would be. The VR world, where you can build applications with a number of different code bases, can leverage hardware focused tool bases. So JavaScript absolutely could be used to build virtual environments. It just depends on the type of environment that you're using. If you're just going to overlay some graphics on the physical world, that's not too hard to do with JavaScript. If you're going to be rendering 3D objects that need to be able to be inspectable in a full 3D space, that might be a little heavier task for JavaScript, just because of the overhead that it may be required to run it.
Yeah, we have had great success with teaching our high school students in our high school internship program, and we're using Meteor.
Oh, sure, yeah.
JavaScript, and it has been the gateway.
Absolutely,
to get students interested, and we've actually built an entire learning management system.
Cool.
In 2 years on using JavaScript. Are you aware of? Are there other, when we think of code camps or opportunities for students to get involved in these code exercises? Are there other things where it's using JavaScript that could get them started?
Yeah, I mean, code.org is always the first place, especially for people who are brand new to programming, especially for kids, because they have some very kid-centric programming tutorials that are online, where you're literally writing JavaScript code, it's kind of procedural. It's like, make this move to the right or move to the left and that kind of thing. But it adds, it makes it fun in that case. There's a lot of developer or instructors that are just on their own putting out great content. Wes Boss comes to mind. Like, he's got some really great tutorials on JavaScript and also Node, which is a JavaScript runtime environment, server that you can run both JavaScript on the client and on the server. And JavaScript is a great language to start with, just because it looks like a lot of other languages. It doesn't have any, it has some weird syntax, but all code has weird syntax. So the syntax that might be weird in JavaScript is not necessarily, unique to JavaScript. Right. But it's versatile, because, again, the second you learn how to do a couple things in JavaScript, you can take that to the browser. You can take that to a mobile app, and use something like PhoneGap to package JavaScript as a distributed mobile app. It just has a lot of places where it can live, and you don't need compilers and a bunch of fancy tooling set up to be able to start working with it.
Yeah, is it showing up on the fringe with like a watches or wearables, or is it at that point? I know a lot of C in those things.
Well, when you're talking about like the native apps that might be running on hardware, kind of like you mentioned earlier, again, hardware vendors will take maybe a specific code base, whether it's iOS, that'll say like, you got to build it in Swift, if you want it to be a true iOS app, or Java or something else. The thing where JavaScript really lives, like I said, is in the browser. Right. Like, that's kind of its ultimate place. Okay, it can be ported to other places and used, but you've got web browsers on phone and on watches nowadays. The iWatch has a teeny little Safari, browser built into it. So in all reality, like, if you know JavaScript and you can make a web page, like, your code will be used on cross devices, on refrigerators that have touch screens, on wherever anybody is going to think like, hey, let's throw a little web browser in here so that the user can, when they click this link, see the details on it. Well, there's JavaScript right there if you're going to use a web browser. Yeah,
and that's actually a really quick way to, I think, mock something up. If it's going to be browser enabled, and you can show a browser in a car, would be a place. Of course, on the devices that we talked about, they're showing up on fridges. I'm a little skeptical of that. Having a device on a fridge would make sense.
What do you think? Like, your fridge knows you're out of milk, and on the touch screen, it's like, out of milk. You want to order something? Here's from Amazon, or here's from wherever. Just hit the button, and boom. Like, I don't think that's too far, too much of a conceptual leap.
I ordered this device called the Egg Minder, and you would put your egg.
Sure, yeah,
And you would put your eggs in it, and you would tell it when you put the eggs in, and then it would tell you when they were getting old. We never used it. I never got it going.
It's kind of like the internet of junk. There's like some IoT devices that are kind of like, does that really need to be connected? But
exactly, somebody did, and it's somebody who ate a lot of eggs. Probably thought this was a great idea.
It was useful. I had a big enough refrigerator that they could fit, it take up a whole shelf,
Yeah, well, and I think in that case, that's a better. We're using the Amazon devices or Microsoft to say, when we're in the kitchen, if we're out of something, add this to the list.
Yeah,
and that gets to be, you may get into a situation where you're like, hey, I'm half. The milk is halfway. We should probably get some more out here or whatever. So some good. When you think about the future, what are you excited about in this area? Are there things coming? It seems like with every code base, there's people adding to or arguing about what can be in the future.
Yep.
What are you excited about?
Well, again, I live a lot on the web. And in the front end development on the web platform, and what I like to see is that there is a lot of competition out there. People trying to make it better, because back in the days, and when I kind of started on the web, I was a big Flash guy back in the days, and we've talked about Flash in previous sessions, and that was kind of like, if you really wanted to like make a rich experience throughout the early 2000s, mid 2000s. You had to use Flash to do it, and so it wasn't an argument. People were like, well, people didn't like it maybe, but like, it was like, well, what else are you going to do, And nowadays it's a lot more versatile web, and you can kind of find a community around whether it is a framework that you really like to use, or you're just a no framework, I want to do it all myself kind of person. the great thing about building content for the web is the reach that it's having now. And, we're focused a lot on responsive web design and making, our, not only just our designs work across multiple devices, but our content work across multiple devices. Because just because I'm checking something on my watch or on my phone or on my laptop doesn't mean I want to see different content. I just want to make sure that content is accessible where I want it. So the focus away from like what it looks like is not really as important as can we get this content to appear everywhere. And the web as a delivery platform is so versatile because there's nothing to install. There's no like weird software requirements. It's like, yeah, there's differences between browsers, but as long as there's a browser on that device, I can put some content on there. I don't have to invest in some crazy toolkit or some development process that is I'm going to use just once or just for this one device. I have a lot of flexibility.
The browser kind of becomes the gateway.
And I've said this before, like it's the browser is going to be like the largest application deliver platform because it's not going to matter whether you've got an Android or iOS or Windows device. It's like the browser's on there. We're going to build content for the browser.
Right. Yeah. No. Super smart. Gadget wise, I'm a gadget guy.
You are.
Any new gadgets that you're excited about right now?
I don't. I abandoned the smartwatch. I had the second generation
Pebble.
Yeah, and my wife last year got an Apple Watch, so I've kind of watched afar from that. The biggest problem for me with the smartwatch was needing to charge it. Like it's like there's so many things I have to keep charged nowadays, and if it lasted, like the Pebble, I did like a little bit more because it would last a week. I could go a week without charging it, but having to charge another thing every night, like that wearable, I didn't get the benefit out of the wearable that I saw there.
Yeah, I was using the Band, Microsoft.
Oh, sure,
Band.
yeah, yep.
Same problem. It's a day, and then it broke.
And
twice.
And the thing is, they're super useful, like in these like use cases where it's like, oh yeah, it's so great to like not have to pull my phone out to like see who just texted me or to do it. But it was like then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and now it's a brick, because it's dead, and I have to like let it sit on the charge. And honestly, for me, when I was using it, a lot of time I was using it for fitness tracking, tracking your steps or tracking how far you ran. And when it's dead and you can't wear it, that feeling of like, I'm not getting this data of my work. Oh my god! I couldn't.
Reward.
Yeah, no, but I love watching. I don't own, but I love watching afar from like the Tesla's innovation with their cars and kind of seeing that. I mean, watching kind of individual companies sort of try to push the envelope at what's possible, and even their like Hyperloop stuff that they're working on, building the tunnel underneath from LA to San Francisco. It's kind of fun to watch, like mad scientist sort of stuff happening, even if it's not applicable to everyday people yet. Or
as we're recording this, we've had one major hurricane, Harvey, come through Houston, and now Irene is come through Florida. It's coming. We don't know.
Yeah, and
the weather tech that we're using these days, and the accuracy. They used to put that hurricane map up, and it was literally squiggly lines.
It was just a blob.
It was going everywhere, and now each day. I mean, it's Thursday, and they're predicting Sunday pretty accurately.
I was following. If you look on Twitter, there's a moment that was posted. I don't know the person, but they were tracking. There was a Delta flight that was trying to get in and out of San Juan before the hurricane was going. And the hurricane, kind of missed Puerto Rico, but like. It was still windy. And so literally this flight from New York landed in San Juan as the hurricane was passing, and they were tracking it with Flight Tracker, which is a website you can go and like track flights. And they were winding in between the wind, like the little like spiral wind gusts. They landed, they flipped the plane. It was a 737. They flipped the plane in 52 minutes. So from the time it touched the runway to the time it was off the runway was 52 minutes, which is like, that's crazy fast for like getting into the gate, unloading everyone, getting everybody out. Like, and it took off like just missing in this little band, the hurricane. And it was incredible. Like the way they were tracking where the wind was going to be and where the hurricane was going to be. And it was the last flight in and out of San Juan. And, it was basically like an Indy race car, quick change tire, like go.
Getting out of Vietnam before. Yeah.
So, So like on that weather day, it's just amazing. Like, that they knew exactly where that plane could be without, I mean, I'm sure it was dicey, a little bumpy going up, but
yeah. We came out of I came out of DC yesterday, and we were getting the remnants of
oh yeah, Harvey was kind of
coming through. It was nowhere. It was just thunderstorms, but all that moisture had made its way into the DC area. Man, I swear he climbed to 65,000 feet.
Yeah,
like we just kept going
straight up. Yeah,
you look out the window and you're like, we are way up here.
Yeah,
But interesting. I mean, even in the world of when we think of tracking, even I think Southwest is doing this pretty well, but giving us an in-flight experience.
Yeah.
We've got this computer in our hands, and now you can attach to it. I think there's some really good stuff they can give us back.
Yeah.
In as tracking, and they're doing some of it, but I still think there's more when we think about what they could be giving us from an in-flight experience.
Well, and that's always the thing. It's like waiting, not knowing. When you don't have information and you're like waiting and unsure, like that's painful. It makes every minute feel like an hour. But when you have data, or when you can look at the little flight tracker and see like, oh, we're kind of circling around. Oh, I bet we're kind of like entering, a little holding pattern, because you at least just have that data in front of you, and you're not waiting like, won't the pilot update us and tell us what's going on?
Well, I have an app, right? Let's just use Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
They have a great app, but it's kind of dumb. It doesn't so it should know I'm on. They know they have the data. They know I'm on the plane.
Yeah.
They know where I'm going. Oftentimes I'm making a connection that I'm late for, or it's going to be close. And there could be some messaging that could go on between the ground where I'm landing and myself. I'm on this flight. They could say, hey, we know we're holding things.
Yeah.
Or we know we've already diverted you.
Yeah. Hi, Jim. We recognize you're going to be a few minutes late to your connection, but don't worry, Jim.
No.
We're holding the. Yeah.
What an amazing user experience that could be.
Yeah.
I just purchased some new glasses from Warby Parker, and I submitted the order on a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Within an hour, I had a text message from them saying, hey, we need a few things from you. Would you mind taking a picture with a credit card so we can see your eye distance? And hey, we're looking forward to making your glasses for you. This incredible customer experience.
Yeah, you knew everything along the way that was happening.
Yeah, no, right on. It was interesting when I was going out. Where was I? I was somewhere, and the flight didn't look like the current configuration. I was in LA, coming back to Omaha. The current flights I was on wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Southwest, without even telling me, just rerouted me through Vegas and made sure I was going to get there. Right. And I thought, that's great service. Now, if my app would have alerted me, it just changed my app.
Yep.
That's how I found out, like in my app.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second
I'm
now.
supposed to be going to Phoenix, not Vegas. And so maybe a little better like alerting to
and I think there's probably because like I fly Delta a lot, and they text, like the app will give you a notification when your bag is on the plane, when your bag leaves the plane.
That's
and so
great. That's
kind of like cool. It's like your bag has been loaded on the plane, or your bag is at Carousel 4. The thing is, I feel like there's also like with like some notifications, sometimes you might end up with like too much. You put yourself in a position where you've given too much information. Like if they say, we're holding the plane for you, at this gate.
Yeah.
Then you don't run to that gate. You're like, oh, cool. You know what? I'm gonna grab a Starbucks before it, and then all of a sudden, like rather
Order
than
the Starbucks, have it ready for you.
That's what they should do. They should be like, you need to get here fast. Click these buttons, and we'll have things waiting for you. Like we'll have a Starbucks. Yeah.
How great was that? That's a great like. Hey, we know you're in a hurry. We've already like. What food items would you like to have? Could you imagine how cool that would be?
I mean, it's like an autonomous world essentially, where you're just like picking your, choosing your own adventure along the way. And
do you need lunch? We can order it for you and just charge it, right? And it would be, as you're making your. They certainly know where you're getting off the plane and where you're.
They know
back on.
No reason they can't. Yeah.
What's in between, and they could offer you menus.
It'll be like that Minority Report kind of thing, where they can, as they're walking through the mall, it can detect their eye, and it says like, "Hi, Jim, you like these jeans? Here's some more that are on sale." Well,
Dustin, we've used that example a lot in retail of the presence, knowing where I'm at, and I don't know if that's as effective as what we were just talking about. The airlines kind of can predict my needs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. There's only a few things
and correctly,
I'm doing,
and
right?
not like in a pushy way. Like, hey, Jim, you should buy this coffee before you cut. It's not like trying to get you to do it. It's more trying to like get you there quickly.
Right.
To like make it more efficient.
No, hey, I've been on a plane for the last 3 hours. By the way, here's the nearest bathroom, because what do people do when they get off a plane, right? First thing, they head for the bathrooms. They're all jammed. And it's the morning time. And I have a Starbucks app, so it might know, hey, let's pre-order it for you. What do you want to have ready? I mean, it's those kinds of things. I think when we think of retail, I think it's those kinds of things that work better than just, oh, I see you near the Bose store. Do you want to order some Comfort 35?
Or the example I always use of Amazon, like, hey, you bought a grill? Here's 8 more grills you might like. You know, it's like, what makes you think that I want more of these
accessories?
Things? It's like, if I buy like a pair of socks, like, suggest some other socks I might like or something. But like, you buy like this, like, once every 5 years, thing, and it's like, you want more of these? It's like,
well,
no, I don't.
Right? Here's a local outlet that has charcoal.
Yeah.
Or here's
here's
how to get your propane.
Something more useful than offering me more of the same product.
I know. No, it's so anyway. Some great conversation when we think of those wearables. The Keynote is a hyper wearable. He tracks everything. And it's kind of interesting. In that world, I think I'm going to have him back on Home Gadget Geeks to talk about that. But
that's cool.
In that world, I think we've got to get better. And God, some of the stuff we're doing is great.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's finding that happy medium of being something that is efficient and makes your life easier versus more cumbersome. Of like, oh, now all this stuff is at you, or you have to make sure you have.
It's helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually helpful. And if they can't be helpful, don't throw up something just because you're supposed to throw it up.
Yeah, I want my wearables to be passive. I want them to be there for me to be able to use, but not like inserting themselves into what I'm doing.
Right on. Dustin, always great to catch up with you. We'll get you back on Home Gadget Geeks here at some point as well. But good, and I'll see you at Infotech
in March.
2018.
Yeah, I think it's March again too. I have it on my calendar somewhere, but
we're live. Thank you for coming on. We're live again 1 p.m. If you're watching the recorded version, you don't really care, but that's okay. The rest of the videos right below this one is the 1 p.m. and we'll be back live here again. And we'll thank you for watching.